Welcome back to another podcast episode where we help aspiring developers get jobs and junior developers grow. In this episode, I invited 3 graduates on from Hackbright, and we're going to talk about what their experience was like in the coding bootcamp and, finding a job as a software engineer. But yeah, let's dive into it. Let's start with intros. I'm going to butcher your name. Bahar?
Bahar, you said it well.
Oh, perfect. Yes. You want to give a little intro about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Bahar. My background is pretty diverse. I've been an artist whole my life, and also I'm an entrepreneur. I always had multiple businesses. That's what I was doing before going to the bootcamp at Hackbright. I dived in last year, finally, and then did it full-time at Hackbright for 3 months and graduated on September. And I haven't got a job, so...
Okay, sounds good. So actually, I'm kind of curious before we finish the rest of the intros. Is anyone currently working as a software engineer? Okay, that's perfect. I like kind of a mix of both. That's actually, I got lucky with that. Cool. But we'll dive into that. And one thing, I usually do it at the end, but anyone that is still looking for a position that comes onto the podcast, happy to help you out. We can schedule like a half an hour if you want me to look over anything. So it's one thing I usually offer. Okay, I'll go left to right on my screen. I'm Don. I was a software engineer at 3 different companies and love front end, really focus on front end. But I started diving into back end with my last position. And then Bahar, like you, I'm an entrepreneur and I finally got the opportunity to start my own company. And so I coach software engineers and building up content creation stuff. So that's me. Eloisa, is that your name?
That's me.
How about you?
Hi, good. So Eloisa, and I come, I have done a little bit of everything. I actually went to study economics in Denmark, and then I got into construction. I loved it. Then I started having my own comedy show. I did comedy for 7 years. And then I worked for, and then producing this show, I got really doing the websites and so on, and I really liked it. So decided to quit my job and then just got into software engineering 2 years ago.
Very cool. Thank you. How about you, Angie?
I'm Angie. My background's mostly in linguistics. So I have a bachelor's and a master's in different types of linguistics, and a minor in German because German's cool. And so almost 4 years ago, I started working at a voice artificial intelligence company called SoundHound. And they're very much a mixture of linguistics and computer science. And so that's kind of how I was introduced to the tech world. And the deeper I got into it, the more I realized I will never learn anything or learn enough by myself. And so I decided to do Hackbright because a girl who is a software engineer at SoundHound did Hackbright, and that's how she got hired. It's like, oh, well, like if you did it, then that sounds great. I'll try it. I did too. Sorry.
I'm super excited.
Yeah, too excited.
Okay, sounds good. And Angie, you did the part-time program. Same for you, Eloise. And Bahar, you did the full-time. So I think that'll give an interesting perspective too. But thank you so much for introducing yourselves. Let's dive into it. So as you kind of saw in the previous videos, feel free to just, speak up, respond to each other. We're going to talk over each other with this style of podcast. It'll happen accidentally. That's okay. We'll get used to it. But yeah, what did you think of the application process?
The application, how Hackbright does it, how I got into it, because my sister said, hey, let's take this introduction to Python class together. So it was like a sister thing. And it's supposed to be a month that you do introduction on Python. And I really, really liked it. So I think that actually taking that is a great idea because it gives you a little bit, you might not like coding. That happens, so, and I really liked it. So that's part of the application. You do that class first, and then they take what you pay for that. So they take it off of the price of the full bootcamp, and I think that's a pretty good way to get into it.
Yeah, I actually did the prep course too, and it was great. At least at the time I did it, I want to say it was like $1,500 or something, but they applied 100% of that toward the tuition. And so that was really cool. I might be making that up. It might be 500. I don't remember, but I remember 100% was applied toward the tuition, and that made me more comfortable with it. And they suggest that you have about 40 hours of coding before you come into the course, and that prep course gives you those 40 hours. So it was a good background. And then part of the actual application, they have like a personality interview as well as a technical interview. And I liked how they had both components. They weren't only focused on the technical aspect or only on the personality aspect, which was nice. And it was nice that they expected at least like a minimal 40 hours to kind of have, you've dipped your toes in. It's not like you've never seen a line of code before. And it was actually really good, in my opinion, for the technical interview, so to speak, because it was really your first like truly technical interview. And so it was kind of like, okay, like, is this something that I will be comfortable doing in the future? Is this something that I am willing to kind of bear down with when I will ultimately be applying for jobs? So I appreciated that experience as well.
You can take the sum again because I did cry in my first interview. Like I completely started crying. And they were super nice. I was doing it, but I knew what I was doing, but I just started bawling. I'm like, I was little, nobody believed in me. I'm like, it's okay. So you can take it, you can take several times.
That's interesting.
Yeah. My process was a little bit different because I started it with a different school beforehand, and I was researching multiple schools to decide what I want to do next. And I was in App Academy actually. So I finished my prep course with App Academy. I was supposed to go that route. And then somebody told me about Hackbright, and the fact that it was an all-women school was a big plus for me. So I switched and I did my interview first, but then I had an opportunity to start a startup. So I put everything on hold. I didn't finish it. And then I went the route to started my own startup. So I was doing that for a couple of months. And then again, they contacted me, and they had a room for the summer, and then things were different. So I jumped in. I literally made a decision in 3 days and finished all the paperwork and everything. So the staff were really helpful to make it happen. And I think one thing that I really liked about their application for me that was really make me trust them was it was so clear, especially about the tuition. My experience with the other boot camps is that there's always something hidden. Like I always was scared that if I'm going to sign this 6 months later, I'm going to pay something extra that I didn't pay attention or I didn't know, or that percentage things are scary. But with Hackbright is what they say, and there's nothing more than that. And they're really helpful. I feel they don't, at least the Hackbright team itself, they don't work for money. They really believe in the cause. So I like that.
And can I say, I know maybe you're going to talk about something else, but I think the most important part of the bootcamp, Hackbright, I feel that when you graduated, you also graduate with a mission. And it is very strong. And the mission is to try to get more women into tech, because tech is changing the world. And the only way that we need to be in the front end of this. Not only because it's changing physically what we're doing with tech, but also financially. It pays well, and we want women to make good. It's the only way that you're going to make any changes, right? I mean, that you are in the top. So, and then when you graduated there, you do get this sisterhood of you need to help other women to get in. And I like that.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting aspect of it. And I went to Full Stack Academy, and I mentored a lot of people through their mentorship program. And they had kind of like an all women's program. Now, what was interesting is I thought a lot of women coming out of there would love that it was an all women's program, and I got mixed feedback from that. And they wish they kind of like went into the normal program. And it sounded like even the all women's program, I don't remember some of the exact policies that they implemented, but it was trying to empower women, and it ended up holding them back kind of in a way. And I think it was just a difference between like the main program and the all women's program. I think it was just how it was managed. But so that's kind of my impression I have, and that's the only impression I have. So what I want to ask you is, what's really unique and what's more powerful about an all women's program versus a men and women's program? What did you really like about that?
I have lived in a very male dominated all my life, like from the get-go. Like what I studied was mainly men. I work in construction, comedy. I have been surrounded by men. And it was so refreshing to learn actually this sisterhood and being, I don't think I would have gone into software engineering if it wasn't a whole girl program. There is just something about it. There is just something that you feel comfortable. I don't know if I could, also I'm a little older, so I cannot sit in a room with a bunch of 21-year-old kids. No, I will not be able to do that. Like, that's not, no.
Okay. Do you feel like, because, just in general, at Full Stack Academy, there was a phrase on the wall. It said, "No assholes allowed." And it blew me away that a business would actually like post that on their wall. But they really, they really believed in that, and they really cared about everyone. Do you feel like, so one of the challenges that I heard from Full Stack Academy's women's program is they loved the sisterhood, they loved the support, they loved feeling empowered and feeling like women actually like stood a chance of like really, we do need more women in the industry for sure. And I know a few teams that have, it's kind of like a boys club. Like that's kind of, thankfully, a lot of those teams are kind of going to the wayside a little bit. And I think as more women come in, but one of the complaints was they didn't really, I feel like a lot of women had this bad image about men in the software engineering industry, and they weren't able to really work with men that actually cared about that. And they had wished that they had gotten a little bit more comfortable working with men in tech. And so they were kind of surprised when they did go onto the teams and they had to now kind of overcome, both men and women on the team. And do you, that's the only concern I got from the people that I mentored. Everything else was really good. Do you feel like that's something that, I don't know how to say it. Do you feel like that's something that you're going to have to deal with when you finally do join a tech team full of men and women?
At least in my experience, my instructor was male, because it was an 8-person cohort, so we only had one instructor. So we had one instructor. He was fantastic. And then you have like a Hackbright assigned mentor, which is like somebody, usually the cohort has more than one instructor. And so you have like an instructor mentor as well as external mentors. And the external mentors are either previous graduates or just people who have industry and experience and want to give back. And total happenstance, both of my Hackbright mentor, my external mentors, and my instructor were all male. And so even though all the people in my cohort were women, most of the actual feedback I was getting as far as like code reviews and curriculum and anything related to that was all from men. And the team I work on now, it does have some women, but it's probably like 70-30 or so men to women. And when I joined, it was like 90-10 men to women. And so I don't really notice the fact that I'm not a man. So that's good. Okay.
For me, it's like I experienced both because my previous experience was like a mix. I wasn't just all women. And one thing that I experienced was that men, I'm not saying purposefully, but maybe they're not even aware of it, they would put me down a lot. So every group that I was assigned to them, and if I want to start solving the problem, they would steal it halfway from me, or they wouldn't let me to finish it. And it become really exhausting to keep telling them that, okay, I want to learn too, or I have a question. And I felt that at the beginning of it, when I'm still learning and I'm in the process of understanding what's going on, I'd rather to be in a safe space and have people that are supporting me and let me have a voice. And when I become more confident, I know what I'm doing, then, it's going to be easier for me to deal with the men like that and just tell them, okay, no, I'm going to talk and you're going to be quiet. So I didn't want to deal with both sides of like being like afraid of learning something new and dealing with like, the problem of like being woman in the tech world. And it was great for me. I loved it. My cohort also was really small, and we literally became really close friends. And many times I wanted to quit. I was crying and I was exhausted, and only their support was like helping me to push through and just feel stupid altogether. All of us together feel stupid and say, okay, we're going to do it again and figure it out. So it was a great experience and I loved it.
I agree. I think some people say that it's fun that they cuddle us because we get a little bit cuddle, but I completely like it. I have no problem with that. Like, yes, this is a difficult process, and please do give me the blanket and a little chocolate. And yeah, like.
Okay, so it created an atmosphere where you had less things to worry about. You didn't have to worry about men being overly aggressive and kind of, like you said, taking charge of the problem without giving you an opportunity to learn it on your own and feel vulnerable and while you're going through the process. Okay, that was my own curiosity. I hadn't planned to ask that, but I appreciate you letting me know.
And they make it super cute too. Like I love that the things inside Hackbright is super cute. Everything's like red and they're like pillows and they really go all the way. That's another thing that I love about it, because they embrace your femininity. And I love that. There is nothing wrong like in, fussy things. That doesn't mean that I can code and like fussy things. And they really go all the way. And I love it. But personally, I loved it.
Also, I think, there's always competition, like whatever you do. But I felt there's a healthy competition and there's the one that is going to damage you. And one thing I loved about Hackbright is that the competition was healthy. And the staff and the teachers and everybody was like making sure that it's going to stay that way. So even women can be like, compete with each other in a way that's going to harm each other. So, but they were really trying to teach us how to be collaborating with each other and thriving. And if you want to get like ahead, we're not going to just put our feet over somebody else's and just go. And I feel like that also created some habit in me. So when I'm working with the team, that's what I expect. I don't expect less than that. So if somebody's trying to do it a different way, I call it out and I just try to deal with it the same way that we dealt with it in the school. So I think that was also great for me.
So that's really interesting. In Full Stack's program with some of the women that I talked to, they felt like it was more competition. And that's another thing. Actually, I didn't even remember that until you mentioned it. I almost feel like the sample that I got from Full Stack Academy, I'm not really confident in their program to try to empower women, to be honest. And I think this is kind of a unique way of doing things. So I'm pretty excited to learn more about Hackbright, actually. Well, why don't we go ahead and dive in? So what did you think of the curriculum?
I loved it. I took so many classes. I started actually coding like almost 2 years ago. And I started with a different school that I'm not going to say the name. And I almost took every single class that they had, from like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, anything that they offered. I took the classes for them because I want to learn everything. And when I got out of the school, I was far away from even knowing what I'm doing. I didn't even know what's the difference between back end and front end. It was just like this, mushy things in my head. I was completely lost. And then that's why I was so scared to even go to another class, because I was like, okay, this is not for me. I'm not going to ever understand what's going on. And when I went to Hackbright, it was just so amazing for me. Like the way they started the program and the way they were teaching every single thing. I'm kind of the person that I need to know the why. Like you can't just tell me, okay, do this, copy this part of the code and it's going to work. That's going to drive me crazy. Like, why? Why does that work? What's going on behind the scenes? So I'm asking all of these questions, why? And they literally always answered my questions. And the way they designed the curriculum for me, it was like I always knew what's going on. I always would understand the connection and what's happening. So yeah, that part I loved it. I have some things that I didn't like that I'm going to tell. I'm not even going to ask that question. But overall, I loved it.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry. I found the curriculum great. I actually reference it pretty regularly now. One of the things that I really appreciate as an alumna is we have access to all of the lectures and homework assignments and stuff like that now as graduates. And pretty recently, I've very recently started doing some like front end for some internal tools and some like React here and there. And it's been really helpful to just like, pull up the React lecture and oh yeah, I remember that and I can apply that. And it makes so much more sense now that I know what I'm doing a little bit more. And also recently I started doing even the exercises from the very beginning of the course. They have like day one is like a lab on learning Python slices. And I kind of just started going through it and it was like, wow, like in hindsight, this is awesome. This is super helpful. Like I should do these all the time now and kind of go back and do them for fun sometimes. And I think it actually makes me a better engineer.
They actually allow you, like, if you want to go and see a class.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Awesome. You can just tell them, and they let you. What is that called? Monitor audit. Audit the class.
Sweet, thank you. I'll actually start doing that. One of my old roommates is now a Hackbright instructor, and so maybe I should talk to him about that. That's great.
Nice.
I don't know. I like it. I go back quite often. I do, but I don't have preference to something else. Of course. Yeah. I thought it was great, but
yeah. Well, especially now because they've been 100% remote with everything going on. So it's probably easier to audit because you don't need to go up to San Francisco.
Yeah. And also, I think that the fact that we have access to all of the curriculum and all the things that they give us, like your account with Hackbright never expires. Yeah. So this is like that ongoing support. Like whenever I have a question about something, I just go back and look at the lecture from that day and see what's going on. I remember because I had it in my head somewhere and the slides and everything. And I feel that's great. I do reference that a lot too. That's the first place I go to check before like Googling or doing anything. I just go there first and then I start like searching for something somewhere else.
Yeah. The examples are super well done. The way, I would agree that all the hands-on that they give you are pretty good.
Is it more front end or back end focused?
Back end.
Back end, okay.
Back end.
So do they advertise as helping you become like a back end software engineer?
It's advertised as full stack.
Okay. Do you... let me wait for that question. For the front end, if you had to apply to a front end position with what they taught you, do you feel like you'd be prepared for a front end position?
I'm doing front end right now.
Okay.
And I don't think you can never be prepared to anything though. Like that's the thing. Like you do, and even if you do a lot of Python, once that they throw you in there, I mean, at the end of the day, I think I was. I spent, funny enough, I spent a lot of time trying to learn React and I ended up doing a lot of jQuery.
Yeah, I think it depends on your project and kind of where you put your energy. Honestly, no, definitely not. But that's totally my own fault. I think the curriculum prepared me. I just spent more time on my server side and am currently a backend engineer. So my JavaScript is really rusty at best and non-existent at worst. And that's not Hackbright's fault at all. It's definitely mine.
I like the front end. I started looking. I took like forever to get a job. Forever. But one of the things that I decided that I only want to do front end. Now I'm doing a little back end, but I like it because otherwise I just go back to my own job. Like this is what I like. I discovered, okay, this is definitely what I want to do. I love it. I love the colors. I love spending half an hour moving a little to the right. I love doing that. I can spend hours. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
my experience is I feel like it is a backend school because majority of the 3 months you are coding on Python, and they teach the entire JavaScript that I learned in 2 years in the other school that I talk about it. They taught it in 2 days, so they were just going through it over it. Everybody was shocked. I remember the people that they never saw JavaScript before. They were like, "What's going on? I hate JavaScript. Why is like this?" And then from there we went like to jQuery and other things, but it was really fast. Like we would spend like a day or so on it. And then with like React, we only did one exercise with the React. And when you start your project, that's what they tell you. Actually, they tell you that this is the place you want to choose if you want to be a front end or the back end engineer. And if you want to be a full stack, it will be obviously a little bit more challenging because you don't have that much time. So like for people that they say they want to be a front end engineer and they want to learn React, whoever's working with you, they will make sure that your project is based on like React. So you have to do the React. So that time you have, you can like experience more, ask your questions, or like if you have a JavaScript front end, like they will like make sure you do it like that. But like for example, for me, it was difficult to choose because I like them both. So I ended up doing a little bit of back end, a little bit of front end, and I didn't learn any of them really good. No, that's not true. That's not true. I think like they really make you more comfortable with back end. And the front end is your responsibility to like learn like React, for example. I know like Eloisa like did a great job on like, I remember like how many months you like study React on your own? She built like awesome like apps afterwards. So she never stopped like working with React. And
I didn't even touch it.
Honestly, for me, I wish like Hackbright had like another course, like another 3 months course, then it would just like focus on the front end. Like they had like, Bootcamp 1 and Bootcamp 2. So Bootcamp 1, we're going to teach you the back end, and Bootcamp 2, we're going to teach you the front end. I would have gone to both of them. Like I love them. And I like whatever, if they had any other courses, I wish I could learn and practice it with them. And just like they didn't have much time, so they had to just focus on one of them as much as they can.
I think you're getting to something. I think everybody would say that, okay, all these boot camps exploded and people love it and we're taking it. But I think that there is a need to like, after that, like I think people would love to take a month to like a mini boot camp. People already working that want to get very good at something. And I think that there is money to be made there because everybody that I talk like, oh, I wish I could do that. Like a month of learning one language or something and then get very good at it.
Do you feel like your knowledge was spread thin a little bit on some areas?
Well, there is always, you can always go. I mean, now I watch a lot of videos and just try to put some hours by myself. But that thing of like taking, 4 days and go to a class and sit with somebody and like, this is what we're going to learn. I love doing that. I wish I could do it. And then, I don't know, I would like to learn like Vue or like something new. I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Go ahead, Del. I was going to say, I wouldn't say I felt spread thin. I felt like a big reason that I did Hackbright is because at the end of the day, like a lot of coding material is online and like you could sit and watch a lot of videos and get code reviews from people and like be really self-taught. But Hackbright really taught me what I needed to learn from a fundamental perspective. And so now that I have those fundamentals, I can, more easily read Stack Exchange, or I can more easily understand like the Python documentation for some reason is just not beginner friendly at all, in my opinion. Or just stuff like that, like stuff that it's really not.
The format. You know what it is? It's the fun. It's terrible fun.
It's the fun.
Terrible fun.
But, and so like maybe they didn't go super in depth on everything or even a lot of things, but it's definitely stuff I wouldn't have even known existed without them.
Okay.
And what Andrew said reminded me of something. They really teach you how to search. Like you really learn how to find the answer to what you want. Because I remember when I finished my second app and I wanted launch them both on the same IP address, and the way I was doing it and the way it was set up, I couldn't find any documentation anywhere. And even my teacher couldn't find it. It was like crazy. And then, but the way they taught me, it took me like 2 days to figure it out, and I made it happen. And that's the kind of the things they teach you. And I love that. You're not scared of jumping into something that you don't know. And you're like, you never saw it before. Like I worked in the hackathon and our back end was like Java. And I never saw Java, but I wasn't freaked out. I was like, I figured it out. And that's the like attitude I think they give you, to not be scared of something that you don't know.
Sounds like they give you a lot of confidence, which is important. They focus on the fundamentals, which is really important. And like all of you said, I mean, you're always going to be learning. And if you have the fundamentals, you're going to do a better job of that. You're going to be able to pick stuff up on your own. But I'm also going to challenge this a bit because I think all of you are very kind and nice from meeting you. I do think that people that do graduate, I think they're really going to benefit from a little supplemental course just to dive a little bit deeper. It sounds like they touch on a lot of things and they prepare you for a lot. But would you agree that that would be a good piece of advice to dive a little bit more in depth in the technology that they want to work with going into the future?
Yes, for me, definitely.
Okay.
It's just so much you can teach in that time, though. I think that it's a good start, and then from there, or take another class or keep going. Because I mean, it's only 3 months, right? I mean, it's only a certain amount. Like, how much more can they teach you though in that period? Like, it is already, they really drive you all the way, right?
Yeah.
It's not a bootcamp.
So I actually have a question. Luis, Angie, it was 3 months part-time for both of you, right?
6 months part-time.
Oh, 6 months. Okay.
Yeah.
3 months immersive. Like
Yeah.
full-time.
Yeah.
Okay.
The part-time is 2 evenings. So 2 3-hour evenings a week and all day Saturdays for 6 months. So 8 hours Saturdays, maybe 8 or 10 hours Saturdays.
Okay. Okay.
It's for people that work.
The idea is you can work a full-time job and still make the hours.
That makes sense. Okay, so I have a question. Do you feel like you were prepared enough without studying anything else after the coding bootcamp to be marketable as a software engineer?
I was right before COVID. I'm not a good person to talk about it.
Okay.
It was rough. It still is for anybody who wants a junior position, right?
Yeah, and I'm not good either because I work at the company where I already worked.
And I don't know, I'm like one of the rare cases of the Hackbright that nobody knows why I didn't get a job. Because
everybody, well, again, RADA is the the 2020. It is, but
yeah, still all of my cohort got a job, almost like 98%. I know they got a job, and I was supposed to be one of the first one to get a job. I know all of my teachers thought I'm going to be the first one. And I had many mentors from like different companies. I worked with like different people, even from LinkedIn, from Salesforce, and they look at my codes, like work with me, and everybody thought I'm going to get a job like maximum 3 to 6 months. And here we go. It's a year past and I didn't get a job. And honestly, I really don't know. I don't think it's like, Hackbright, because I know so many people got a job. Like the majority of my cohort, at least I can talk about my cohort. I don't know about the other one. They got job. Like some of them were like Angie. One of them, she was already working in the company and they paid for her to come to Hackbright. But I know like at least like 3-4 of them that right away they got a job. But I have to say that all of them, their background was in science. And I feel that has a huge impact. What is your background? Even companies, like my problem was like I cannot get interview. I think I applied for the most jobs than anyone else, but I got the least job like interviews. And but the one that they were able to get like interviews regularly, they got a job like really quick.
And I agree, I know you, and I know that your project was great. I know how hard, like, getting a job is not only baffled to you, but for me as well. Like, I don't understand why. Like, I don't get it why. I really don't know. I think that you're extremely prepared. I know what you have done, like, and I see other people getting jobs that is like, no way even close to you. So, that is a very weird thing is happening. I don't know why.
Do you mind if I ask you a few questions? Because we have a little bit of time for it. I kind of just want to gauge maybe why. How many applications do you put in every single week?
Okay, so I have to say something. I had an accident in August, so this is all before August. So I was in hospital for a while, so I'm recovering now. But before August, I would do like 25 to 30, like at least like per week. And I total by August, I think I'd done about 1,000. Like I was counting, like I was writing it down by 600, like 600 something. It's just like doing it, like did I got a call back or all of those things. But then after 600, I started like losing my hope. So I wasn't like, tracking as much, but I was just keep doing it. And still I'm like, some here and there I apply, but I can't like, My wrists are healing now just recently, so I can get back to coding. So it's been a break. But before that, yeah, it's about like 1,000 application. Let's say 900, 800.
With cover letters?
Some of them with cover letters, but yeah, it was times I would get tired and exhausted and like not put the cover letter.
Okay.
So it's mixed.
I definitely did that too, and I underestimated how valuable it was, especially with an entry-level position. If you don't have enough time or energy to put a cover letter in, then get some rest and go back to it when you can, because it is really important, and companies do.
Yeah.
They really care about that, especially if you're applying out of state. I know a lot of people might be losing options. And I kind of wanted to just dive into this just for about 5 minutes, because I think it's going to help a lot of people, because many people, at least like you said, it's 2020 pandemic. It's hurting a lot of the economy, and a lot of software engineers that I knew got laid off. So it's just a bad year for sure. But I want to emphasize, I think the 25 applications a week, I would almost argue, I don't know how much time you're investing into it. I would actually lean back a little bit with that, maybe 15, at least 15 a week, to give you more time to continue working on complex projects. But a lot of people underestimate cover letters. There should be a cover letter with every single application. And when it's out of state, you exclude your address and you have that conversation with the interview. Obviously, don't lie when they ask you. Be truthful about it, but that doesn't have to come out in the beginning of the conversation. And I've seen software engineers where the team liked them, and then like if they would have told them or listed their address, that resume would have got tossed like right away, wouldn't even looked at it. But now that they got to know that person, the address wasn't as big of a deal. And because I think a lot of companies are scared to pay for a software engineer to fly them out. And I think software engineers that apply out of state need to have a realistic expectation. They're probably not going to pay for your moving expenses. And that's another concern companies have. So out of state, don't list your address, be willing to pay for that. You can negotiate it higher. I'll always try to negotiate, but yeah, it's really tricky, and I would actually be really interested in diving more details, and I could be a little extra critical if you'd like me to really like pinpoint what it is, because I usually end up finding it for every person. But I want to give that little piece of advice, but please hang in there. It is a rough year, and don't forget what Elise said. It is a really, really rough year. And I've talked to many software engineers that kind of feel hopeless, that feel discouraged and feel like maybe they should give up. Maybe it's not for them. Maybe they're not intelligent enough. Maybe they're not no company wants them to work for them. And then they start judging their own personality. Are they a good cultural fit? It's easy to get into that spiral. So, but if you'd like, we could talk, after this, but yeah, please don't give up with that.
I feel that also what I said to my friends is just like right now, because it's a manager also problem. People don't want to hire juniors because they feel that they cannot train them. Fair enough. But if anything that has happened this year is that everything is going online. So it's not, we just need to just hang in there, because it's not like technology is going to go away. This is not, it's just going to get bigger. We just have to wait for managers to get comfortable hiring juniors. And right now it's just like seniors, but they're going to run out of seniors. Like it's just going to happen.
It's already happening.
There's just so many seniors you can have. And then everybody's like, oh, we're going to go abroad. Even if you go abroad, it's still not enough. So it's just, yeah, I think it's going to get better. I don't see how. I mean, it's not like we're trying to be models or like trying to like break it into Hollywood. Like, we're it's nothing fancy.
And there's a frustrating thing about this industry, because a lot of companies are saying we need software engineers, and you keep hearing this industry needs software engineers, and then you graduate a coding bootcamp and you apply to hundreds of companies. And you're like, I thought you needed software engineers. I've gotten like one interview.
Yeah.
And you've really highlighted it. people like companies don't really want to take a risk on junior developers. They want to hire middle and senior developers. And I can tell you, once you get into the industry, it's very easy to move around. It's very easy to get a job because they are desperate for developers with experience. And so, as a junior developer, first of all, if you ever call yourself a junior developer when you're trying to sell yourself, I think that is a huge mistake. You are a developer, you are a software engineer, and it's really about how you sell yourself. And it's going to speak with your projects, the way you talk, the confidence that you bring into the interview. And, a lot of people get intimidated by some of the interview challenges, like the data structures and algorithms. And I think I just talked about on the past podcast.
Because they're ridiculous. That is bananas. It is bananas what they do. I mean, granted that some of them are going to pay you a good money and you didn't even go to university. I mean, got it. But it is insane. Sometimes they ask, the problems are ridiculous.
And so the problem comes when you go into an interview with the mentality that this is stupid, that I'm not going to do this in the industry. And you're right. It's not like you're wrong, but a lot of people go into that with that mentality, and then it causes them to get a little nervous or frustrated during the interview. And the experience, really, the interviewer is looking for someone that they would love to code with, they would love to pair program with, that are friendly, that are engaged with, even if you don't know something, you're not sighing. And I used to do this all the time, but you're not sighing, you're not frustrated, and you don't just blank and give up. I mean, you just flat out say, you get comfortable with saying, I actually don't know this. I never encountered this problem before. I'm going to walk through it one more time. Maybe you can spot where I'm getting it wrong. And it's just working with the interviewer and just feeling more comfortable, and in your body posture and your tone and all of that is that's way more important. People are so afraid and they hate these whiteboard challenges, but it's not always about finishing the challenge. It's about how you deal with a problem that you might not be equipped to face just yet, and how you work with someone else to overcome that problem. And if more people went into interviews with that mentality, I think they would be much more successful. They would not look at it the same way. But I say this, yet I still get nervous in interviews, and I still kind of clam up a little bit. So that's something I still need to work on as well. But it's something we got to encourage each other and I think we just got to encourage each other to change our mindsets when we go into an interview, and just have a kind of a fun experience where you can learn from the interviewer.
The problem, Don, I feel with the many as companies, that as much as they say they're open to boot campers, when you get to applying for them, it happened to me many times that they don't even have a place for you to choose that you graduated from bootcamp, or your school is not listed, so you can move on. And then they say, it happens to me many times. I talked with the person in the company, and they said, yeah, apply. And then when I went to apply, it was just I couldn't apply because I was a boot camper. They were the way they set it up, I couldn't just move on. And or the questions they ask is the kind of the questions that you're never going to learn in the boot camp. And many times it happens, and I even because the Hackbright has a really strong support system. So I contacted them. I told them that, okay, this, company that is working with you, that's the question they give us. And they contacted them, and they told them that, straightforward, this is not kind of the questions you ask a boot camper. This is not what they learn. So there's a lot going on with the interview process. Yes, when you talk with them in person, it's great. Your connection is great. But when you actually get behind the computer and look at their interview process, it's not the same as what they said, and they're not matched in any way. I know so many companies are removing the old traditional way of interviewing. They don't do the code challenges anymore. And I appreciate that. They will want to know how you code, look at your codes, talk about your codes. And, it's just get to know you more rather than as Eloisa said, doing something that you never learned in, boot camp, or you don't even understand what to do. I know one of the questions that everybody was laughing at it was how you design a LinkedIn or Twitter or something like that from a boot camper. It's seriously? I hardly understand what's going on in 3 months, with the coding. Yeah, and I know that boot camps, they don't spend as much as time on whiteboarding because they don't have time. Even though Hackbright tried to do that, we had whiteboarding, I think it was on Wednesdays, a couple of hours, but definitely wasn't enough. at all. Yeah, so it's a mix.
Well, and so just to paint a realistic picture on that, every coding bootcamp chooses to prioritize their own things, and every coding bootcamp has flaws. And one thing I can see with Hackbright so far, they don't go into depth like some coding bootcamps do, but they give you kind of a widespread knowledge. So there's a strength and a weakness to that. I personally focus on depth. I want people to get a little bit more depth as a junior developer, like get exposure to what's out there. But I think a lot of people coming out of coding boot camps don't have enough depth and knowledge, and that is a problem. And that's not just a problem with Hackbright. That's a problem with many coding boot camps. And some, like many coding bootcamps that I've interviewed, they don't focus a lot on data structures and algorithms. Yours, it sounds like it really didn't, but I've reviewed some that really focus on it heavily.
They spend half of the thing is on the, it's just I wasn't good at it. But yeah, no, they spend a lot of time in their structure, like for sure. I mean, when you're doing your project, the whole class is data structure.
So was it every Wednesday that you did it?
For us, I believe it was every Wednesday, but not the entire course. The second part of the course, like for a month and a half, probably. I don't remember correctly, but like I think it was like
but that was whiteboarding. But the whole structure, I mean, pretty much for us was the last month was only that. The problem is at the time you're doing your project and you're not paying attention anymore. But yeah, they have it.
Yeah, we had some classes on data structure, but as you said, Don, it wasn't in depth. It was just like brushing off something and say it so you heard it, or like telling you like kind of the like questions would come so you prepare on it. But even like the teacher would say that, this is not enough. You have to go ahead and like study. It was kind of like giving you the list to know what to study and what to expect that's going to come. But you should have studied on your own. It's not something that people go to school for 4 years to understand what's going on. So definitely they can't teach you what someone learns in 4 years in 3 months. So my thing is like, I don't feel it's like just the boot camps problem is like the companies that they say they're open to boot campers. They have to shift and switch the way they interview boot campers. They cannot expect the same from boot campers than from like someone that they went to school for 4 years. It's different.
I got a response to that, but Angie, go ahead. I know you want to say something. No? Oh, okay. So
I have no opinion about data structures at all. I don't stand for them. I don't know what I'm move away.
I think a good interviewer is going to look at your resume, and they are going to interview based on what you put on your resume. So are you putting data structures and algorithms on your resume, or like anything related to that?
Backend.
Yeah, and actually, I don't know I haven't seen many resumes that would actually list that anyways, so that doesn't make any sense. But what I am saying is there are coding boot camps that I've reviewed that do it every day and that start very early with that because they understand that it still does exist in this industry. And it sounds like Hackbright chose to not put as much time into it. I'm not saying whether it's a good or bad decision as a whole for the coding bootcamp, but it did leave you lacking, it sounds like. Yeah. And that's an important thing to recognize. And, maybe that's something you supplement when you come out of it. But it's hard to say, if you can't even make it through the interview process, that's, that's just a broken application. They're probably going to get feedback. Hopefully they fix that. But I have
to say that, like Hackbright, they did like once a week. They continue the same whiteboarding after we graduated. So they told us the space is available to you, and if you need the help, we're gonna be here. And they do have a mentor that's gonna be there. I believe it's twice a week.
On Wednesdays at 4:00, they have whiteboarding.
Yeah, they have whiteboard. But also they have like a mentor twice a week that's gonna be there for I think like 4 hours. That you can schedule if you have any questions, like you couldn't figure it out on your own, and go ahead and like ask him the question. And he's actually really good. I actually took a session with him. But yeah, I feel like as when the bootcamp ends, like you're so exhausted and overwhelmed, and you just want to go get a job that is just keep going back to San Francisco and like for whiteboarding. I did it for a couple of months, but then at one point you just burn out. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, I was like, I can't do it anymore.
Completely understandable. Yeah, Okay. So like I said, we do go off on tangents, and this is actually a really good tangent to go off on. I think we talked about a lot of really neat things, but we do have to move on, unfortunately. So thanks for sharing that. I kind of have my own opinions. I don't know if I want to do a video about it, but I just like the one big complaint I get, I kind of just want to end with this, is a lot of people are frustrated with interviews. They're frustrated with not getting a job. They're frustrated with the entire process. And I think it's important to recognize that I don't think coding boot camps or college degrees give you a good overview of everything that you should actually expect, all the frustrations that you're going to experience, and how certain companies will flat out, like, they don't tell you that certain companies hate boot campers. Like my first position, I remember going to the interview, he's like, "Oh, you're from a coding boot camp." And I said it with, I acknowledged it with enthusiasm. And he was not very enthusiastic about it and then I asked him, and he said, "Well, I actually interviewed someone from a coding boot camp and they didn't even know what a loop was." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. So you based your, entire bias based on this one student or whoever coming in, they didn't know what a loop was." And sometimes it's just like, when you start feeling like, when you mention that you're from a coding boot camp, or you feel like you've kind of discovered that they don't really prefer people from coding boot camps, you have to learn, and this is on you, you have to learn why that is. And like, sometimes that's even just asking them, what do you think about people coming from a coding boot camp? Honest opinion, not going to be offended. And then when they do tell you, like, we talked about junior developers struggling to get a job. It's because people don't want to risk anything on them. It's so much more expensive to hire a developer and have to fire them than just like pass on it and wait and take time and resources to hire a developer that's going to stick around and really contribute in the way they want. And so when you understand that it's kind of your job to alleviate a lot of their concerns. And how do you do that? You discover what they are. You ask them. And sometimes it is being bold enough to ask them. So you can have that conversation with them. And I guarantee you, most of the people that I mentored are not willing to do that, because they're kind of intimidated by interviews and they don't want to say the wrong thing. And you got to remember, it's an interview on both sides.
I have my best friend. My best friend has a PhD in computer science. He doesn't like bootcamp. I completely get it. You didn't spend all that time and all that energy, and some people huge amount of money to pretty much have the same job of somebody who just took like 3 months. Like, I understand that, but also that's why I like technology so much, because I love skilled schools. And yeah, maybe the system of higher education is obsolete. And maybe they have to. And I think it's a little bit more of that crush. So, of course, I mean, a person who spent 5 years at university studying computer science, and they all of a sudden we're going to have kind of the same job. That's in your face, actually. Like, I get it. Yeah, definitely. And the worst is that happen, like the hire, that, the website hire that they try to, it's called hire. They try to get people in tech. They were saying that they take a test first, and then they try to place it. They say that actually a lot of people from bootcamp, the vast majority, and people from university score the same, because when it comes to programming. So it's even more in your face that maybe you wasted all this time.
Okay. Yeah.
That kind of feel good.
Yeah. I get that feeling. I completely get it. Okay. So we do have to move on. I said I was going to move on, and I didn't. So we actually have to move on, because I have a few more questions. But thanks for kind of diving into that with me. What do you think of the instructors?
Love them. All of them.
They're
amazing.
Great.
Really amazing instructors. Really knowledgeable, really understanding with the depths what's going on, and really humble to say they don't know when they don't know, and actually find the answer for you. And I love them. I miss them so much. Like, I wish I could go. I always tell them, I said, "Can I take a course again, please?" They're laughing at me. I'm like, "Can you just do another course or something so I can come back?" They're amazing. All of them. I had 1, 2, 3 instructors, and I love them all.
Okay.
Yeah. And willing to spend out of class time always. just like really, really willing, even for the part-time cohort where, you know, like my instructor had a full-time job in addition to Hackbright and, you know, would always get back to you within a totally reasonable amount of time, faster than like, I was surprised by how fast it was even, and totally willing to just sit down and walk you through whatever you weren't understanding and unblock you as soon as he could.
Sounds like they really care.
My teachers still ask me how I'm doing. It's been 1 year. They have no business to do with me. It's just like, it's gone, it's done. But it's still, they like, touch base with me. How are you doing? What's going on? Like, that's how much they really care for you. You become like a family. It's, yeah.
Ron is one of the consulate. I talked to him and through the, many times looking for a job, he will call like, oh, let's do something. Let's put you, like you feel, it's like a little warm blanket. Like, come here.
They tell you when you become a Hackbrighter, you're part of the community forever. So they always, even like when you're going to their job, what they call it, job fairs, they tell you like no matter what, like 10 years from now, you lose your job and you need to come back, you're more than welcome to come back. So they just say like their job search part is like unlimited, never ending. Okay. It's not like, okay, we're going to help you 6 months after you graduate and after that, you have to pay for it. No, they're just like whenever, even like 10 years from now, you lose your job, you can come back and we're going to help you.
That sounds really good. I think every coding bootcamp should do that. And I know a lot that don't, and it surprised me how many don't. But it sounds like they definitely pay attention to hiring instructors that are going to, first of all, care about the profession, care about students, care about actually teaching, and just empathetic instructors that are going to really care about your entire journey, and not just like you coding, but how you feel about the whole thing, and helping you get through some of those struggles mentally. So that sounds good. What about the post-job assistance? What kind of things did they offer to help you out with that? Or not post-job, postgraduate job assistance.
Yeah, well, so they have the Thursday. Every Thursday they get a new company, and then they do like a little whiteboarding. And I have got help. Like I can call them, and I need help. I cannot find a job, and then like, okay, send me your resume. Send me your cover letter. Let's make a plan. Let's send you like they are gonna go with you, and that never ends. So they help you, and then they always have job fairs that you're always invited.
They have job fairs quarterly, and they have so many. They have also a newsletter that they send out every Monday. That if there's any job opening with their partners, they're gonna post it there. We have a Slack channel that everybody's in there. The entire Hackbright graduates is in there. So people like post opening jobs over there. If you reach out, like even like after like it's a couple of months, if you still want to like reach out, they're going to be there for you and they're going to help you. And they have so many partners, honestly. There are so many companies that they love to work with Hackbright because they had great experiences hiring from Hackbright.
That's good. That's something that coding bootcamps screw up a lot, where they say that they have partners at companies and they have alumni going into companies, so you stand a better chance of, getting in. They really enjoy our graduates, and you get a lot of that advertisement from coding bootcamps. I've seen a lot of coding bootcamps really screw that up and do like job fairs where last minute they invited some random company to come in. They didn't build up that relationship, but they're looking for jobs. Why not bring them into the job fair? And they don't really spend enough time building relationships in the community and relationships with the companies. So it's good to hear Hackbright.
I have to say that I had experience with that too, honestly. Like it's not that like the 100% all the companies they come is like perfect. Like it happens many times that you just see like these people came and they're looking for the senior software engineers, not like juniors. And then you just like confused, like, okay, what's going on? But then also I know like there are going to be other graduates of Hackbright as well that they are seniors. So it's kind of like it's a mixed pot. Like, yeah, I'm a junior, I'm looking for a job, but then I know there are seniors that they're looking for a job, they're coming as well. But the one good thing about it is that like when I had a complaint or something about the company that didn't get back to me or something, that I reached out to my instructors or like the management, and they call them. They send them email and they tell them, okay, this is my graduate, send you an email saying, apply. Why you haven't responded back? So they have no problem to call them out and just like, hold them responsible for like what they said. And I love that about them.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
One I know Ron, that is one of the counselor. He was in the industry for a long time in HR, trying to make a more get minorities, and it didn't work out. So he actually moved to work in Hackbright because he wants to help minorities into tech. Like that is actually his personal reason. So you have people like that they're definitely working there because they believe in the mission, and I don't know how much they get paid or anything, but definitely they're driving.
Yeah, I don't think the counselors get paid too much, unfortunately. I see a lot of turnover with that, a lot of pressure too. But I could be wrong about Hackbright. Okay, I think that gives me some context with it sounds like they really do help you to the finish. And even if you lose your job, you can go back to them and they're willing to help you. That says a lot about how much they actually care about their students, and that's big. So we kind of dove into it a little bit, but what could they do better?
Front end.
Okay.
Do more front end. Honestly, I feel like because I thought about it many times, like honestly in that 3 months they taught us as much as possible, and then some of it my brain was like shutting off. I'm like, I can't take it anymore. So it would be perfect if they could add like extra courses. So you could choose like, okay, back end, front end, full stack. For some people like me that I want to learn more, I want to know more. So I could just like have more information about it, because the front end wasn't enough at all. And then also like whiteboarding. I wish they had a course that, after you graduated, you could just choose if you want to go to and like, spend another 2-3 months and just do whiteboarding and understand how to deal with the algorithms and like, interview.
There are classes for that too online, I think.
Okay. What else?
I had some, I don't know, problems is too strong of a word, but like issues with just the administration. I think it was a matter of circumstance. They like happened to be acquired within like a week of graduation. And so just like weird turnovers and, evaluating which roles were already fulfilled at the parent company and stuff like that. But just like little things where like, for example, Angie isn't my legal name, but it's what I've gone by for forever. And like all of my Hackbright documentation has my legal name. And I kind of made a point like, oh, hey, could I get Angie on my stuff? Like nobody post 3rd grade has called me anything other than that. They're like, oh yeah, sure. And it like never got updated. So now I have like all these business cards and stuff with just not the name I go by, which is fine. But it's also just kind of like, okay. Things like that. I don't really think it. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I don't like think it's like any particular person's fault. It just kind of didn't happen. And there were enough of those like weird little things that they kind of became annoying.
Yeah, I mean, I understand like it being on your legal document for the terms of service you sign, but
exactly. And that's fine. But like my Hackbright portal and my Hackbright business cards and like my Hackbright project was announced at, and I was kind of like, guys, like you've known me for 6 months at this point. Like, it was just kind of, So.
Sounds like they dropped the ball.
Honestly, I have to say that, that has been like a problem for sure. Like when the Hackbright just acquired like with the parenting company, and I know they don't have enough of resources as much as they had before. Mm-hmm. And they're trying so hard to keep the culture the way it was and don't let them to change the culture. And I know they're struggling. Like right now, I know like each person does like a job of 2 people at the same time. And even though like in our cohort was like kind of like passed from that transition for a couple of months, but we could still feel the pressure on them that they try to like, make it more about money and like get more people in the classes. And like, they really tried so hard to keep the culture the way it was before. And it's definitely, as what Angie said, I had some issues like that as well. But that it's just because, one person does the job of like many other people and they need just help. They need like more money.
True definition of wearing many hats.
Yeah.
Sounds like it. Eloise, you've been very kind to Hackbright. Do you have anything that you might want to see improve though?
I'm thinking about it. I don't know. It's just, It was such a difficult year. So I don't know, I don't know how much is Hackbright and how about of my own. It was kind of, just getting into tech. This year has been very, very challenging. It's looking up now, but it was, that was rough.
It was. And keep in mind, I like to share this because it's starting to happen more often after each episode, but a lot of staff reach out to me. And I've done some harsher reviews. I can tell you, Hackbright, definitely one of the kind of reviews that I've gotten from guests. I've definitely had some harsh reviews of coding bootcamps, and not a single staff member from a coding bootcamp ever reached out in frustration. Even if I kind of, I like to search and see where my videos end up in Google and who posts them, just for data for me. And even staff, even if it's a harsh review, whether they reach out or talk about it in a post or anything like that, they've always appreciated the harsh constructive criticism. And I don't think a coding bootcamp can survive by being sensitive to that criticism. I really don't. It's a business at the end of the day, and they have to improve. They have to stay competitive. And so one thing I usually tell people is a lot of them, well, not a lot, but some people start their sentence with, it might have been me. It's a harsh year. So I don't really, want to give criticism towards them. But with that, I can tell you, if you do choose to do that, they appreciate it. And a lot of staff actually have been reaching out to me so I could interview their CEO or someone higher up on their coding bootcamp. So I just want to tell you that. So
I wasn't crazy about my teacher.
Okay. What about it?
I think it was going to personal stuff. I don't know, because I think it was your same teacher too, Angie. I think, and I wasn't crazy about it. I think he kind of funded up. Yeah.
What could he do better?
I don't know. I think he was changing jobs or something. So he was, and then also when you do the part-time, you're nighttime, and then everything happens. If I would do it again, I think I would try to do the full-time and not the part-time.
Why is it?
I don't know. Do you feel? I feel a little bit like everything is for the full-time, and you're the ugly part-time cleaning lady or nighttime.
And
we're also here.
Well, a lot of people, and we can even say maybe that's not a slight on Hackbright. A lot of coding boot camps, a lot of guests that shared their part-time experiences, they wish they would have done full-time. It is a different experience.
Yeah.
It's different seeing them face-to-face too. I know a lot of people are forced to do remote, but it's just building that connection with the instructor will make or break your experience at a coding boot camp. I feel like the instructor is everything. So I think that's completely reasonable. All right,
but it's still, that's how much I like it. That even I'm not that crazy about the instructor. I thought it was a great experience. I personally could have done without him, but.
Yeah, no, it was really hard prying any constructive criticism out of you. So it sounds like you had a really good experience. So that's good to hear. But I'm glad you shared that. But yeah, that's just my job to try to just poke and pry it out a little bit. Okay, so this is good.
One more thing that I think I wish they would have done better job. It was preparing me better for what to expect after I'm graduating. Being a woman, how crazy it is. Not being American, have my name caused me so many problems. Things like that they knew it. And I had no clue about it. Not having a science background. These are things that I learned after that, talking with, different advisors from different companies or different people around in the industry that I learned. And so I wish they would have told me throughout the course. So at least mentally, I was prepared for it. To know that, okay, I have to work harder. I have to be more patient, or I have to do something. I literally had people tell me you have to change your name because, you're not going to come up as much and they're not going to choose you as much for the interview. So these are the things that I was shocked.
Why is that?
Because it's not an American name. It's not the name that is familiar for them. So they're not comfortable understanding, am I a woman or man? Who am I? What's my background? This is they're not just comfortable with it. They would just tell me, if you choose an American name, you're going to have a higher chance of getting more interviews. Or if you had a science background rather than like, art and literature, it would be easier for them to trust you, to give you interview, or so many things like that. And there's actually like a lot of studies done on this. There's so much data out there that, you can check and see like the percentage actually is really high. And how much this thing like impact.
The age thing as well.
Yeah, age,
Because that's my
they're not going to know
I
how
feel
old
that my
you are.
age gets in the way of the stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, these things I wish they would have let me know like ahead of time, so I was mentally prepared. Or maybe I would choose differently. Like maybe when I was like, before the project season starts, I would choose to go front end, because I know as an artist, I get a more chance to become a front end engineer than back end, because I haven't like dealt with like mathematics or like algebra or any of those for years. So like these are the things I wish I knew like earlier, so I would make different decisions when it was a time to do so.
Yeah. So I think you mentioned a few things kind of about your background and how to kind of specifically align that with the company that you're going to be applying to. That's important. You might feel like you have a background that doesn't really speak to engineers. I guess for me, the mindset that I choose to have, and I encourage other people to have, is, first of all, your characteristics. You being a woman, whatever your age is, you having a name that you might feel makes people uncomfortable. I mean, you can't change all that, and you can't lie. Like, that's not on you to have to lie about your name or your background or any of that. I would almost want you, it's during COVID, you can't really do that, but I almost feel like you deserve to have a community that nurtures all of that and doesn't look at you differently for any of that. And I think tech has come a long way. And while we're remote, while companies aren't really giving responses back, it's easy to think that it's because of any of those things. And it could be. There are still companies, there are still people out there that might do that. But I almost want to provide you a more encouraging perspective. Tech has really progressively changed for the better around the United States and many other parts of the world. Please don't give up on tech just because of stuff.
No,
like
I don't
that.
give up. But the thing is, like, when you have the like mindset and the facts that is out there, you have a different approach to it. Like this thing that I'm sharing with you, it took me a couple of months to understand what's going on. And that frustration that I went through, like if I knew it ahead of time, like I'm kind of the person that I don't give up easily. So I would have prepared differently. I would have a different mindset. I would set different goals for myself. And right now, like it's after 1 year going to like each of this, and before COVID, I would go to every meetup or anything was around here. I would have been there. I would just go ahead and talk with people. And I just say, I wish they would tell me ahead of time so I would do it differently and I would prepare for it differently. And I wouldn't get so frustrated or so like, confused about what's going on. So I'm not going to give up. Like, honestly, like now that I'm recovering and my wrist is like getting back and I can code, I'm always looking for a solution. I said, okay, now I'm going to like focus on the front end. I'm going to learn React, how Eloisa done it. And I was actually wondering, because we know each other, so I was wondering if she got a job. And now that I know she got a job.
No, but it wasn't with that.
Yeah, I'm even more like encouraged to do that.
So how I got a job was in the middle. It was a crazy thing. It was this company. Actually, they wanted an intern to do some, there's a company called Zapier. They do like integration. It's kind of like the weeks of integration, like very simple stuff. So they needed somebody to do that. And I'm like, in the middle of COVID, like I'm nothing. I went to the interview and I said to the guy, like, listen, I could do this, but this is a little bit thing for an internship. Like, this is just not enough. Do you have other work that you can also give me on top of this? Because it is not, fair. I mean, as a job, it's great as an intern. And I was looking up that he had some Chrome extension that nobody wanted to touch. And then they gave me that. And then I did the Chrome extension very well. And that's how I got the job. It was like, it was me negotiating a better non-paid internship. And then I did the internship and then I got the job. Like random, very random, very random.
I think we're about towards the end of it. Is there like one final piece for developers? One final like piece of advice we could collectively come up with?
Well, like people looking for a job, don't feel bad about it. And I know, like, I like what you say. Everybody like got a job, and it sounds like, oh, it was so easy, and everybody all of a sudden is making $1 million just by coming. Like, it's just crazy. And right now, and then it's difficult because the cohort, like 2 cohort before us, or before it was like everybody have a job, and then this hit, and we are screwed. So just hang in there. It's gonna get better. It has to get better.
I think it's a great job, especially for a woman or minority. And I feel like it's something that, at least us, like women and minority, we shouldn't give up on it. Because, maybe it's hard to get in. Maybe it takes some time. But as you said, when you get in, then it's going to be easier to move around. And I feel like it has a lot of potentials and, options and openings for people like us to like define who we are and, to just like, shape our life or anything. Like if you finally you're gonna find a company that their culture is gonna be matched with you, and I feel it's worth it. Definitely, the paycheck is worth it, and that learning that always you're learning is worth it, and you can work anywhere in the world, and I think that's really beautiful. It's a language that you can choose at everywhere in the world, and you're gonna have a job. So I think it's a great job for everyone. Especially minority and women.
Yeah, and Don, I think you actually summed it up pretty well. But I've, given or received a lot of interviews and also given quite a few interviews. And I think if there's anything I've learned in that process is just because you didn't get the job doesn't mean you're not a great person and a great candidate. There are a million reasons why you may or may not have gotten the job. And probably about 99.9% of them aren't actually about you. And that it took me a long time to learn that, but I think now, like sometimes I'll, like when I was interviewing, I'll do that and just kind of be like, why did I, actually it probably wasn't something I did or said. Like I wasn't a good fit for one of a million reasons, and you're not going to get the next great opportunity if you take that one anyway.
Okay, so if people could if people wanted to reach out with you, we'll go from left to right. Bahar, where could they reach you?
LinkedIn. I would love to connect. Any question they have, anything that I can help. If they just want to even like talk and ask for like, I don't know, how was their experience? I'm going to be there. Definitely. Would be happy to talk to anyone.
Sounds good. Eloise?
Yeah, as well, LinkedIn, Eloisa Fornaguera or Eloisa Fornaguera Hotmail. Hotmail, did I say Hotmail? Yeah, I said Hotmail. Gmail. Jesus Christ.
Angie?
Yeah, also LinkedIn. Definitely just like LinkedIn InMail or email, whatever's up there.
Okay. If you would just stay on for another minute, but I just want to say, Bahar, Eloise, Angie, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate you sharing your perspective on it.
Thank you. It was great talking to all of you.